Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm making mushroom caviar, which is technically a spread, but in Russia we call it a caviar. Just the way it's prepared and the final look of it will resemble a lot from caviar. Let's see what we need to make it. I have 3 pounds of cremini mushrooms. You can use any mushrooms of your choice, including wild mushrooms. 2 pounds of tomatoes. I have Roma tomatoes since I find them the most meatiest and the most flavorful. 1 pound of onions. I have 3 medium onions. We're also gonna need 5 cloves of garlic. 1 pound of carrots. I have about 4 medium-sized ones. As far as the spices, I'm gonna use 1 teaspoon of ground coriander, 1 bay leaf, and I'm gonna use 1 bunch of fresh dill. And also 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and optional 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. If the mushrooms are too large, we need to cut them in half because later we need to run them through the meat grinder and they have to fit through the opening in the meat grinder. Then we're gonna put them in the pot and we're gonna add some cold water just to cover the mushrooms, and we're gonna put it on the stove to boil. After the boil process have started, you need to remove that foam that appears on the surface, and we're gonna boil mushrooms for about 10 minutes. Then we're gonna drain them, but do not wash them because we want to preserve as much mushroom taste as we can, and reserve about 1 cup of that mushroom broth because we might need it. Now, out of this Roma tomatoes, we're gonna prepare a tomato puree. But first, I'm gonna discard the seeds, and there is a specific reason why I'm doing that. You need the seeds primarily in the sauces, but since we want our mushroom caviar to be less watery, I am going to remove the seeds. Also remove the pits from the tomatoes and cut them in quarters so it would be easier for us to run it through the food processor. Blend tomatoes in a food processor until they turn into a puree. And I have this little tiny one which I absolutely love. It's quite a helper in my kitchen. Then we need to chop 3 onions, and it doesn't have to be a quite fine chop since everything is gonna get run through a meat grinder, so just roughly chop 3 onions. Then we need to cube 4 carrots, and it doesn't have to be a fine cube like they would teach you in the culinary schools. They just have to be cubed roughly because once again everything is gonna get run through a meat grinder, and the cubes we need so at the end this product looks like a caviar. We also gonna mince 5 cloves of garlic, and you can use a garlic press or you can use this tool I'm using, which is called a garlic rocker. And I love this tool because it just minces garlic so fine and it's easy and you don't have to do a lot of cleaning. Add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil to a large frying pan, and I'm using just a regular olive oil, not the extra virgin one, since it has a little bit higher smoking point. Then we're gonna add our chopped onions, and as soon as they get a little bit softer, we're gonna add our carrot cubes, which is gonna saute this mash until the carrots become a little bit softer, but kind of al dente. And to help them to sweat out, we're gonna add just a teaspoon of salt and a little bit of pepper. Then take it off the heat and let it cool a little bit. And here comes a meat grinder, and I'm sure you guys have one in your house. Even if it's the old-fashioned one, we need to put our cooled mushrooms in the meat grinder, and we're gonna grind them, but not a fine grind. And look, it already starts looking like a caviar. At least I think so. Then we need to grind our carrots and onions. And let's say you guys don't have a meat grinder. I think the food processor would work. You will just not get this kind of like grainy texture to your caviar. It's gonna be a little bit smoother, but I would use the pulse function on your food processor. Then what we just ground gets loaded into a pot. It's quite a large pot, so we're just gonna put the mushrooms, the onions and the carrots in there, and also pour our tomato puree. We're gonna mix everything and we're gonna add our spices. And as far as the spices, I only using 1 teaspoon of ground coriander and 1 bay leaf. Then we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of salt, and also about a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. Then I remember I told you to reserve a little bit of that mushroom broth. We're just gonna add about a tablespoon, so it's not too dry. Then we're gonna put it on the stove to cook for 1 hour, and we're gonna stir it occasionally. In about 45 minutes, we're gonna check on it. And it's looking good. If your caviar is gonna start looking dry, you can add another tablespoon of that mushroom broth that we reserved. And at 45-minute cooking mark, we're gonna add the fresh garlic, the minced garlic. We're gonna mix it together and continue cooking it for another 15 minutes. Then turn off the heat and we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of plain white vinegar. Vinegar here is added for the taste and mainly for preservation, if you would just preserve it for a long time. And also we're gonna add our freshly chopped dill. Then you're gonna taste your caviar. If you're happy with the taste, don't add any more salt and pepper. And if it tastes a little bit under seasoned, then just add to your taste. And also, as a finishing touch, after the caviar had cooled down a little bit, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and that's mainly for taste. If you decided to preserve your caviar, you're gonna need jars, so wash them with hot water and dry them very well. And we're also gonna have some stickers, and I always have fun making stickers for my preserves. So I am just gonna write on one mushroom caviar. And after we put our caviar in the jars, we can paste the stickers on them. Then you need to open a jar, and I'm gonna use a funnel that I use for fruit preserves like jams and strawberry preserves. It has a little bit larger opening, so it's easier to put things in the jars using that funnel. We're gonna put our caviar. Then we need to tap so it settles a little bit, so we can put a little bit more. The reason I'm doing that, I want all the air out. It will help your caviar to stay fresh in the jar, and while it's still hot, we need to turn it upside down, and that pushes all the air out from the jar. And of course, when you would open it after it's been preserved, you just need to let the air out like you would do in any jar. Should we taste our caviar? And you would serve it on a piece of crusty bread, and I'm using the French baguette, or you can use the black bread that normally we would eat this caviar with. And we're just gonna open the jar, and before that I let the air out with just the tip of the knife, and we're gonna taste our mushroom caviar, and it tastes so good. In Russia, we call this type of spread Zakuska, which means it goes very well with vodka. Okay, I didn't just say that, but it does. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I hope you like the recipe. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.